Clax was a game which management approached us, I don't know what, in late summer, and said we needed a product for the January show in England, and could we do a game in a few months? And so, you know, of course I said yes, and then we had to go figure out what we were going to do in 4 months. And at that time, Tetris had been popular. Ed had done a coin-op version of Tetris, and Tetris had just taken off. So this Clax was basically a following on the footsteps of trying to come up with a concept that played into this whole puzzle game thing that was happening at the time. I started drawing just on the paint system I had at work. I started drawing just little shapes of abstract pictures that looked like puzzle games, not without any kind of restrictions on what they should do or anything. And after, I don't know what, a week or two of this.
Right, he'd hang it, the ones that he liked, he'd print out and hang up on his wall. So we had all these things that looked like games, a lot of simple primary shapes and a lot of very colorful things, and that was the inspiration.
And then eventually one day, I don't know why, but I came up with, well, I'm thinking about these shapes coming down, and you have to sort them and put them in piles and match colors, very much like Tetris. And I don't know, it kind of came from an idea too of, remember that Lucy show where she has to make pies and they have to hurry up, and so you had to do these operations to get this thing finished. And so it was kind of like that. And I described it to Dave. I said, I picture, I don't know, I think we just picked 5 columns for some reason. I pictured 5 different columns of stuff coming down, and then you have a paddle and you collect it, and then you could move this paddle back and forth and plop it in a pile. And then when you had 3 or more of a kind, it would go away. And you could do verticals and diagonals and horizontal lines. And
that's the game.
That was the game. And Dave went home on the weekend, I think on the Amiga, right?
Right.
And over the weekend he did a real crude looking just blocks and colored things. And I remember went back, there was only one Amiga here at the time, was in the video lab, and he loaded up in the video lab, and
we were able to play it after. I got a prototype going on a weekend in Amiga Basic, and we played it and we refined it a bit. And then we had some 3D system that Mark used to generate the graphics of the tiles tumbling down, and so he generated a bunch of graphics, and then he went on vacation for about 3 weeks. And when he came back, I had got the game up and running on an escape hardware system, and people were lining up in the lab to play it. We were trying to minimize the hardware and have the least expensive hardware we could have. And the sound system at the time, we had an FM chip that did music, and we had a synthesizer chip that did digitized effects. And so we decided we could have just one of those chips to make an affordable system. So we went with the synthesizer chip. And so we could have all kinds of digital sound effects, but no music. People would work out patterns on paper, elaborate chain reactions and sub-chain reactions, and then they would patiently play the game and arrange all the tiles in that pattern and make it happen. Mark wanted a golf type sound, you know, like the little flag clapping and the sound of a golf crowd in there. So we kind of went around the halls and we got everybody we could, and we put them into the sound lab.
Yeah.
And
we had our
I think the big inspiration for Tube and for me when I was first thinking of the idea is it was kind of a reaction to the fighting genre of games that was going on at the time. And I saw an enormous amount of violent activity in video games at the time, and I swore to myself there must be a way to create a game that's fun to play and can earn a lot of money, but can be good, clean fun for kids to play. Well, I think it was a fun game, and a lot of people enjoyed it, but still didn't have the appeal that the violent games had. It's just amazing. It's very difficult to come up with a concept that you would think that people would have fun playing in a sort of a strategic way, a kind of in a challenging way in terms of the control, to challenge yourself as a designer, to come up with innovative new environments and approaches, and still the kids are drawn toward these violent tendencies. Later on, I went to do Primal Rage, which was a big hit because it had a lot of blood in it. So it's a reaction to kind of these violent games, and I thought that there was a way that we could make a game that would be good, clean fun for kids, and I think that Toobin was definitely a cult hit. There was a good, strong, following of the players that would always play it and loved it and would play it all the way through. But it didn't have the broad base appeal that some of the other games did. We built a tile editor, and we had pieces of river, of rapids, of shoreline, and the designer would sit and click through tiles one at a time and basically lay them down right in the system and build himself a level. And
Flax wave. Flax wave. Diagonal wave. you